This is Farmer Joe from Farmer Joe and Farmer Wing's Garden of Oz in the heart of LA, and right now I want to talk with you about a plant that's called the Jerusalem artichoke. But I do have to have a few disclaimers here. Number one, this plant is not from Jerusalem, and the plant is not an artichoke that you would normally think of an artichoke being. Kind of along the same principle as a pineapple not being an apple, but yet it's got apple in its name. But this is a Jerusalem artichoke. The other name that seems to be a more acceptable name recently is the sunchoke. One word, sunchoke, as opposed to Jerusalem artichoke. I guess that's probably in reference to people not confusing this plant with planting it and thinking that they're going to get the typical artichoke type plant. But anyway, this is, I want to say that this is a very, very invasive plant. So when you grow it, if you grow it, you want to make sure that you have it contained, which is why when I planted this, let me get up here. When I planted this, I planted it in the barrels, so the half barrels, and so I planted them in 4 half barrels. And what I did, the first 2 barrels, I planted what's the variety is called Stampede, and it's a very popular variety, but it's called Stampede. And then the last one here is called Fusco, a weird kind of spelling, but it's called Fusco. And then this one in the kind of like offset in the middle to the left is a hybrid of the 2 of them, and this one is called Red Stampede. But what happens with this plant, it gets about 6 to 8 to 10 feet tall, and at the end of it, it produces some daisies. Let me go and look at the daisies. So you might think that this is like a simple flower, wild flower. Let's see, can you see? Yeah, there it goes. You might think it's a simple wild flower or a daisy type flower that's nothing to brag about, but what's really going on is what's happening underground. Because what's happening underground is the plant is producing tubers, very similar to potatoes, although they look more like ginger. If you've seen ginger in the grocery stores, or they look like ginger. And what I had to do when I planted the bulbs is that I had to put chicken wire over it because animals were wanting to dig up the tubers because they like them. The interesting thing about the tubers is that each plant produces hordes and hordes of the tubers, and you just leave them in the ground until you're ready to use them. But you use them like potatoes. Now the really significant thing here is that especially for people like diabetics who can't enjoy potatoes like the rest of us can, the Jerusalem artichokes, or the sunchokes, have very low glycogen index level. I think that's what it's called. And so this is actually a very healthy tuber for diabetics to eat in place of potatoes. And you can use this in the cooked variety like you do potatoes. So you can bake them, you can make chips out of them, you can make scalloped sunchokes out of them. And then the other thing that you can do is, unlike potatoes, is that you can eat them raw and put them in salads. They're very crunchy, and put them in salads and serve them with dips and anyway, it's somewhat like a jicama, if you know what a jicama is. Anyway, so this is our lesson today on sunchoke on Sunchokes, or Jerusalem artichokes. This is Farmer Joe from Farmer Joe and Farmer Wing's Garden of Oz, signing out.